Mark Campana, how the heck did you get in the music business?
Well, the best way to describe it is that I was looking for a way to get paid to do what I love to do. And like many people in the music business, we're exposed to either bands or artists or just that live experience, and I kind of caught the bug as a high school kid. And what happened was I was going to a little college prep parochial school outside of Chicago, and they made a deal with the students that said, over the course of your high school career, whatever money you can make through the various fundraising activities, half of that money your senior year will have to be donated to the high school, and the other half you can put towards the prom and spend it however you want on your prom. So I was motivated to throw the best, biggest, greatest prom ever held in, outside in the burbs of Chicago. And to that end, we started working on dances, and we were working on putting basically bands into our cafeteria. We were quite successful at it. I then caught on the idea of taking some of the money that we were making off of the dances and throw it at some concerts in the auditorium. And back then, I literally contacted the agency that was selling us the bands who were playing at in the cafeteria and said, would you send an agent up to talk to us about how do we do a concert in our auditorium? The agency was owned by Irving Azoff. It was called Blytham. It was out of Champaign, Illinois, and he sent one of his minions up to teach myself and the administrator how to do an 80-20 net deal. And the exact information that was shared with me that day, quite frankly, is the foundation for doing shows today. We took the money that we made on the dances and we put it on concerts. And at that time, being a kid in Chicago, the hot bands were Ted Nugent, Styx, REO. That's what we started doing. So we were doing, taking the money off the dances, betting it on the concerts. I had one other thing going for me, and I think that's when my marketing skills kicked in. And that was, we were a private school that had, our administrators were priests. So if you got in trouble at one of the dances, or you got in trouble at one of the concerts, the worst thing that could happen is the priest was going to call your parents and tell them to come collect you over at the high school. Whereas if you were at one of the public schools, and you happen to get yourself in trouble at one of their dances or concerts, more than likely it was a police officer calling your parents, telling them to come collect you. I immediately raised the price of tickets for people who went to the public schools if they wanted to come to our events, and lowered the prices for the kids who went to our school, thinking being obvious, we're getting a lot of those the non-res, if you will, non-residents. And then one thing led to another. We did a lot of shows as a high school kid. Went off to college and picked a university based on a school that did lots of concerts. I truly believe that, like most people in this business, they come out of college concert committees, and had the opportunity to work on a great college concert committee. We did enormous shows. We were located halfway between St. Louis and Chicago, and we did everything. We did the Grateful Dead. We did the Grateful Dead, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Marshall Tucker, James, I mean, you name the bands, we were doing them all. I handled all of the artist relations and production. There was another Mark, a fellow of mine named Mark Mariani, who was my partner. He took care of all of the marketing, all of the sales. He was really tied into the promotion side of it, and tied in heavily with the radio, tied in with the television for the shows. Mark went on to be the head of went on to be the head of Turner Sports.
That worked out pretty good.
Did okay. He then moved from Turner Sports over to a little company when the internet started called Sportsline. He was one of the founders of Sportsline, and I'll never forget Mark calling me and saying, "You'll never believe who's in our conference room right now." I said, "Okay, who's in your conference room?" He says, "CBS. They don't want to start their own. They don't want to do a startup on their internet. They want to actually buy Sportsline." The following Sunday, I'm watching the Masters, and they introduced CBSSportsline.com. I immediately thought of my friend from college, and He did pretty well, I will say. He definitely had his eye on the ball when it came to the whole marketing, and then jumped on the internet. So college, we did big shows. Had the opportunity to take that college education and apply it when I got out of school. I went to work for a family by the name of the Nederlander family, and they, by coincidence, were building amphitheaters all over North America. So I had the opportunity to work for the Nederlander brothers. They were in mostly their 60s and 70s at that point. They were the second generation. The first generation started in about 1920, and he was a Broadway producer, and he had 7 boys, and he taught them all how to run his business. The last of his children was Robert Nederlander. That by the time that business was, by the time he was ready to enter the business, DT, David Nederlander, their father, actually sent Robert off to law school and said, you know what, I've got all my operations guys, I got all my marketing guys, I've got all of my talent booking guys, I need an attorney. And not only did he send him off to Michigan to become an attorney, but he also made sure that he be a tax attorney. So needless to say, the Nederlanders were way ahead of themselves in terms of what they were doing in building their company. I went to work for the brothers, fresh out of college. We opened an amphitheater outside of Chicago. I was part of the team that built Poplar Creek, which was one of the great amphitheaters of the 80s, if you will, and had the opportunity to move around North America working for him. I had the opportunity to work at the Greek Theater for a summer. I went, worked on a number of the projects that the Nederlanders were building in places like Cincinnati. I moved to Toronto and actually built a venue up in Toronto. I was, it's funny, I look back on it now, I was actually Arthur Fogel's competitor. So from Irving sending me that agent when I was a high school kid to teach me how to do an 80-20 deal, to being Arthur's competitor when I lived in Toronto, I've had many an opportunity to stumble, and so far I've been able to keep one foot ahead of the other.
You know, it's funny how doing this show, you and I have known each other for years, right? But, you know, we'll go out and we'll play golf, we do business, and my wife always asks me why, you know, guys don't know more of the family and all that stuff and all these details. So it's been fun for me to get guys like yourself on the show and actually hear their rendering of their history in the business. We have Bill Silva, same thing, where I found some interesting things. A couple things here. Irving Azoff, 80-20. You must have got him early in his career because there hadn't been an 80-20 out of Irving for years, okay? If you're watching, we're trying to get Irving on the show. If you're watching Irving, maybe we can come in and talk about the evolution of the 80-20.
Correct.
I love your idea, charge the outsiders more money to come to your concerts. You can get the priest, you know, for $10, or you can get a bail call from your old man. I'm taking the priest.